Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, my name is LJ and you're watching NoClutch Garage. Thanks again for tuning in. Right now, we're actually going to be talking about something that's really exciting. As you saw in the title, we're going to be installing a meth kit on my car. And this is not just any meth kit. This is going to be a meth kit by Cooling Mist. In any case, most of this is kind of the same across most meth kits. But what's really interesting here is that we're going to be installing direct port meth. This is the first application for the B58 for meth injection, or I should say direct port meth. It's by MST Performance. They created the flange for it, and so yeah, we're gonna be putting it on my car. This is the first one. Literally, I think this is still like prototype, but like finished, you know what I'm saying? It's like final product, but like prototype. But we're gonna test it on my car. Stuff like this has been done before already. This is not uncommon. In fact, some B58 guys have resorted to just drilling holes into their manifold and then just spraying meth like that, which is totally fine. But a meth plate just makes everything tidier. It makes it so that you don't have to tap into your manifold. And overall, it's just a better way to go about it. So we're gonna go over the kit really quickly since Mark sent me this from the UK. Things are kind of out of place, but I will go over everything, and then we're gonna do a quick overview of the stuff that I have already done, and then we're gonna be going through the wiring process and where each thing needs to go. There is a wiring diagram that I'll be linking in the description down below. That should be able to help you a lot as to where the wires are supposed to be wired. But as far as how you should route them through the car, I hope this video captures that. And remember, I'm in the United States, so I'm left-hand drive, and so it might be a little different for you guys in the UK or in Europe and other parts of the world where you're actually right-hand drive. But nonetheless, I'm gonna make it so that you kind of have an idea of where things are supposed to go. So without further ado though, let's go over some of the things that come with this kit. So there's obviously some fuel line that came with it. I already routed the fuel line through the car and plumbed it, as well as the tank in the back, but I will go over that in just a second. Right now we have a few connectors. We have some it looks like vacuum line, so we have some vacuum line. We have it looks like a fuse tap, zip ties, more vacuum line, and it looks like a check valve of sorts. Some connectors, and we will use some of this. Of course, this is not really imperative. You can find all this at a hardware store. We have a solenoid that is very important. So we have the solenoid, we have an LED indicator, we have this thing that I have never seen before in any other meth kit, but it's called a system pressure monitoring unit. And I had also forgotten to mention that this kit comes with a failsafe, which a lot of meth kits do not come with. So I specifically told Mark that I wanted a failsafe. You know, because of the things that I've gone through with my car, I'm a little bit more cautious. So we wanted to add that. And right here we have a level switch, which will go in the tank and will tell me when there's actually low meth. We have a few fittings. We have the nozzles here. These are CM4 nozzles. These are the ones that will go on the actual flange. And then we have an additional nozzle, so I'll be running 7 nozzles, 6 direct and 1 at the charge pipe. And this is a CM5, if I'm not mistaken. We will show you the placement of all of that. And then of course we have the bolts that will hold the flange in place. Right here we have the wiring harness. This was a true mess when I got it, but I kind of separated out the cables, and I'll be showing you where each cable goes. We have here the actual control unit, and then we have the controller, which we'll need to find a good placement for. So anyway, and then of course, like I said, there's a diagram I will be linking in the description down below. And over here we have the distribution block, which is actually a very interesting design. I've never seen anything like this. We have the distribution block with the lines, and then the nozzles, and right here we have the main thing that we'll be looking at, which is the direct meth flange. So this comes of course with its gaskets. Yeah, it's really nice, very well machined, in-house by Cop Developments. And so this kit is basically a joint project between Cop Developments and MST Performance. I have a very good relationship with Mark Williams. I've known him you know, from the community since the beginning of the B58 journey. And so like I've kept in touch with him, and he was kind enough to send me this so that we could put it to the test. And as you guys know, Nightmare has a G1000. It's got a 6164 turbo, and we're gonna be doing some more work to the car soon, so adding additional fuel made sense. So we're gonna go back here, and I'm gonna show you my tank setup. I did go with the BMS Burger Motorsports Stealth tank, which will sit right in here. It's a 3-gallon tank, and if we pull it up, we have here the pump, and I have already set up the pump like so. Very easy setup. You basically just put in this little brass guy in, a little bit of line, connect it to the input right there. The arrow tells you where to go, and then you route that line, the fuel line, out, and you're gonna need, I think Mark supplied about 10 meters, which is about 10 yards of line. And then we're gonna take that line and we're gonna drill a hole through this thing right here, and then through the bottom, and it's gonna come out through there. Then we're gonna route it along the bottom and all the way to the front. And once we get this car up on the lift, once we get ready to install everything, I'll actually show you how I routed everything. So routing the fuel lines is actually not the tedious part. It's actually the simplest. And I would recommend you routing the line starting from the engine and then route it down into the back. Now I left some of the line there because obviously we haven't put the flange on the motor, but that part is ready. The most tedious part is honestly gonna be the wiring. So I'm gonna take my time. This may end up being a little bit of a long video, but I'm gonna try to chop it up as much as I can to keep it short, but keep it concise. So first thing I wanted to do was actually find a placement for the control unit. I thought about putting it right on the cowl right there, but it's actually not gonna be a good placement. I don't want any water getting into this. So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna put it under the footwell, and that way the harness, which is connected right there, should have plenty of room to go anywhere throughout the car. These wires are pretty long, so I'm not really concerned about length. And even if, you know, I ran out of wire, I can just attach more wire to it. And then of course my biggest concern was this guy right here, which connects to the controller. I didn't want the control box to be too far away from the placement of my controller. So we still have to find a good placement for the controller, but as long as we get everything wired in first, then we can find a good placement for the controller. I'll show you where I'm gonna place it, and you can decide where you want it. But let's go ahead and get started. I'll try to keep my recording as clean as I can. I can't guarantee that it's gonna be the best video, simply because it's only me recording and me routing all these cables throughout. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I think the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and open up the footwell. And what I mean by that is like directly where my feet go, like right up above it. To do that, you're gonna need a 10mm socket and a ratchet, or if you have one of these little drills, you can use a little drill. I almost forgot that I had bought this thing, which comes in handy, like saved me so much time so far. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and take those off and go ahead and look under there and see where we can find somewhere where we can put the control box. I thought about putting it in the cowl, but the problem with the box is that it's a little bulky, so it doesn't really fit the way I would want it to. And also it gets wet out there, and I don't really want to risk it getting damaged, especially when it comes to like fuel and stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it in here and then route the cables from in here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and take the 10mm. There's gonna be one right here, and there's gonna be one right here. So I'm gonna take it off. And these are the nuts. I think that's it for this one. It's been a while since I've taken these panels off. So when we pulled up, we pulled down from the top. So anyway, try to remove it carefully. So there. Now you can work right here, or you can just remove it completely. It doesn't matter. For me, I have enough space here where I can pretty much, you know, decide where all of this stuff is going to go. There are a lot of cables under here that I have routed for my boost controller and other things, so don't mind all the other extra cables. What we essentially want to do is find a place for that little box where it won't get in the way of anything else. Let me think about this for a second and I'll come back to it. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this panel to give myself more space. To do that, you do have to disconnect this light. You simply pull that out and then pull this out, and you can remove this whole plastic thing. Just move it out of the way. Alright, so here we have the control box. I think I found a place to put it down under my footwell, but I also saw that I'm probably going to have to tap into my boost line. And as you guys know, I have an external wastegate, so I have a boost controller with an actual boost line that I'm going to be tapping into. And I think to prepare that, I'm going to use one of these supplied silicone lines, and I'm just going to put it in here and put it all the way in. And then I'm going to use this little T to tee off. Essentially what's going to happen is my boost controller is still going to read the boost, but this is also going to be able to read what boost we are at. All right, and now that they have been installed, I'm going to go ahead and put some zip ties around here to make sure that this stays snug. All right, so now that we have this in place, I'm going to go ahead and cut these ends off and give it a little bit more of a clean look. Now we can put this in place. So I also do recommend that you look at the diagram and decide how to organize these cables. So I taped off the cables that are going to be going to the front of the car and the cables that are going to the back of the car. This one's going to be for my float switch, battery, so positive and negative. This is going to go to the pump. And in the front, we have our cables for system pressure monitoring unit, which is basically your failsafe. And then also we have, our solenoid, and then we have some auxiliary cables. This is going to go into the fuse box to basically tell the system when the car is on and when the car is off. Obviously, I'll be going through these as I wire things up, but right now I just want to show you how I kind of organize things. And let's go ahead and put this guy in there so that we can go ahead and get started. All right, so what I'm going to start doing now is we're actually going to be removing these trim pieces right here along the edge. These pop out pretty easily. This is I just pulled them off, which is not actually the right way to do this. I'm going to take these off, and then we're going to route the cable through here all the way up in there. I don't remember if I took this off last time. I don't think I did, or I might have. You can route the cable through this edge and up there. You can take this panel off too. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to route the cables that are supposed to go to the rear through the sides, and then cables that are supposed to go to the front, we're going to leave in the front. Alright guys, well I resorted to the old GoPro because I realized it was going to be pretty hard for me to show you all of this with just my phone. So now we got the cable here. As you can see, I also removed this panel right here, and we're going to go ahead and move that seat forward. So we move it like that. And this cable actually goes to the battery. You can route it through here and then to go all the way to the battery. What I would be inclined to do would be to run it under the seat onto the other side, just because it goes over there. I'm gonna move this back a little bit, and I already lifted this side. I'm gonna lift the other side. We're gonna lift this side right here, and we're gonna release that seat. We're also gonna have to take this side panel off. So now we have both side panels off. Okay, sorry, my camera died and I did not realize it. And so you didn't see what I did, but essentially what I did is I removed that panel right there. That panel goes right here where the seatbelt goes. So I removed it to make it, moving the cables through a little bit easier. Now I'm guiding this cable through to the back. That cable is gonna go to the actual Meth pump. And this routing is really simple. What I did with those red and black cables is I just routed them under the seat and through, and now they're sitting right there, and they're actually gonna go all the way back to the battery. But this one can stay on this side. What I'm gonna actually do is route it through here. And I don't know how well you can see, but I'm gonna route it through here and kind of try to lift this panel and then just bring it all the way through. And this black cable is actually a little bit short, so I'm gonna extend it, but I don't have any black wire right now. I have some red wire, but I don't want to cause any confusion, so I think I'm just gonna wait and get some black wire. Red wire, black wire, doesn't matter. It's still copper and it would work regardless. But this will go all the way back here, and we can do something with this cable later, but right now I just want to get the wires to the back. So all these wires are good. And then the last one that is going to go to the back is going to be this one, and this is for our level check. So basically it's going to check how much fuel there is in the tank and, you know, warn us that there's low fuel essentially. So we're going to take this but run it to the back same way, and it's going to follow the same path as the pump, and then just pull it all the way through. All right, so now I have those lines routed to the back. I'm not quite gonna be putting those panels back on. I want to wait a little bit until we put the controller box where it needs to go. So until we put this in there. Yeah, actually we can go ahead and put this in. I'm gonna go ahead and splice the boost line that I have in there for the boost controller and get it situated. I actually need 2 small zip ties so that we can get them all set up. Let me grab that. All right, now we have this box, which is gonna go on top of this airbag. This is an airbag for your knees, but it's gonna go right on top of it. Now, the way I have this set up, I have my boost gauge line running through here. So essentially what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut into it and then tee off like that, and that's gonna be how I'm getting the boost on here. All right, hopefully you guys can see what's going on here. So essentially what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put this box, well first I'm gonna grab my line, and I think I'm gonna splice it right there, but I want to put this box up here first. I want to set it somewhere where it's not going to make a lot of noise. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this line. I'm gonna go ahead and put this T in here, and I'm gonna go ahead and zip tie it. Now this is just for the way I have my boost controller set up. This may not be the same for you. For you, it may just be that you need to tap somewhere to get the boost reference and then go straight in here. But since I have the big boost kit and I'm already using a boost controller, this makes sense. And then the other one is right up here. And I'm gonna go ahead and tee it in here. And I'm gonna grab another zip tie and zip tie it. And that's on there like this. Now the way these cables, they have to be routed through the firewall to the front. So we're gonna start routing these to the front. That way we can go ahead and start putting this where it needs to be. This box, I'm just gonna push it through, and it's actually gonna sit up here. We're gonna go ahead and take these cables that are supposed to go to the front and route them to the front. Now, if you've never routed anything through the firewall, it's actually really simple. There's a rubber grommet that pretty much separates the front, and you can route all the cables through here. So the cables are gonna go in there. I'll show you exactly how we're gonna be doing that right now. All right, so the first wires we're gonna put through are gonna be this red and gray, and this is for the solenoid. All right, so obviously I'm giving way more length of wire than I actually need, but that's fine because we will cut this to the length that we need. Right now, we just need to get this through the firewall. Hopefully you can see clearly. These wires just come through here and put about, I'd say about 6 inches of wire in. So now if I go over to the other side, if I come to the outside, you're gonna see the wires, and you see right here. And then we're just gonna pull them all the way through. You hear that? Because I'm tugging the whole harness. So I'm gonna leave it right there for now. And we're gonna do that for all the other wires. I'm gonna go ahead and put this where it belongs. So preferably, I would find somewhere where I can put this kind of out of the way of things. All right, to this, I'm actually gonna apply some of my own wizardry. What I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna get these pump wires, and I'm actually gonna add some of these guys right here. These are connectors that'll go on like this, because there might be a time when I need to take the tank out and I don't want to be stuck trying to cut cables off or whatever. So I'm gonna do this way. It works out pretty well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the male side, which is this lead right here, and I'm gonna stick it in there, and then I'm simply gonna squeeze it into place. And actually, these are not the right pliers for that. Found the right pliers. All right, so I'm gonna take these pliers and here you go, squeezed into place. And then we're gonna go take the positive one and we're gonna do the same thing. And now we have these two that are gonna be easy to connect. We're gonna be doing the same thing with this blue wire, but we're not needing the blue wire right away because we still need to find placement for that connector. So we're gonna hold off on that. So now we have these connectors. I went ahead and trimmed this one, and I'm gonna go ahead and trim this one as well. There we go. Now we're gonna take our female connectors, but before we do that, I'm gonna go ahead and put this through the little holes that I made for these wires. I drilled a hole through this to get the wires through. So now I have the wires in here. We can go ahead and put these down here. It's not gonna hurt anything. Stealthy. So now we take one of these and stick it in there, and then we're gonna press it in. That one's done. Then we do the same with the other one. Now we have our connectors like this. We have our females and our males. All right, and to connect these, it's actually pretty simple. The red one, it's got red and green, but the red one is gonna go with the red, and then the black one's gonna go with the brown one. And we can put the tank back inside. There you go. And now it's wired in and it's plumbed for fuel. So now if we throw this on, there's not even a sign that, you know, there's anything plumbed in here. Now when you lift it, now you can see it. All right, so I got everything zip tied in the way I want it. So now I'm just gonna start putting these plastic panels back on. All right, so we got the wires to the back the way we needed them. And we still have all the side paneling out, all the plastic stuff. Now, if you feel comfortable with the length, you can go ahead and start closing it up because we won't need to open it at all. As long as you have enough slack in the front so that you can wire everything up the way we're gonna wire it, you should be good. If you want to tidy up all those cables, you can zip tie them and, you know, just keep them all together. That's probably what I'm gonna do here in a second. So we're gonna zip tie everything and make sure that all the lengths are correct, and then we can go ahead and, you know, be done with the interior, at least the rear, and then we can focus more on the front. All right, so now we get to this part. There are a few things we're gonna be doing. We want to go ahead and connect this to the little box up here. So I'm gonna tuck these wires in back here like this. Just trying to keep everything tidy. We're gonna go in from behind. We gotta keep these vents in mind. So that means we have to go up and kind of around. I will bring this and just plug it right in here. There we have the plug-in. We're gonna go ahead and plug in the controller. The controller has this little Ethernet-like connection, and this one goes on the other side. So we're gonna go ahead and do that too. Now, we still have these cables that are coming in from the back, and I'm gonna route these all along this side. So this is why zip tying cables together, or groups of cables, is so good, because you can just, you see how now this is just kind of sitting there tucked up. Here's where I want my controller for now. I might move it later, but this is just where I liked it. I had good visibility on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and close it up. We're gonna close it up the same way that we took it apart. So with those two little 10mm nuts, and I'll show you what it looks like. It's gonna look really cool. All right guys, I put all the panels back, and that's pretty clean. You can't tell there are any wires ran anywhere. It's full stealth. The controller's right there. That's the only thing that will actually like stick out until I find a better placement for it. But I actually kind of like it right there for now, because from the driver's seat, I can actually see the lights, the indicators. There's a whole manual to it that'll tell you what each light means. Yeah, so all the interior wiring is done. Now we just gotta do the main event, which is putting that plate on, plumbing the rest of the fuel lines and the wiring, and then we can begin tuning. All right guys, in order to begin the process of actually putting the plate on the manifold, we're gonna have to remove the cowling. We're gonna have to remove the top portion of the charge pipe. We're gonna have to remove the throttle body, and we're gonna have to remove all of these cables out of the way. There are also gonna be 7 bolts holding down the manifold, and there's gonna be one more bolt back there that is actually on the support brace, and you can see it right there. And then the manifold kind of pops out. Now there are coolant lines running along the bottom. Hopefully make this the easiest I can make it for you guys. All right guys, so I removed all the plastic stuff in the back just to kind of make it easier. If you don't know how to remove that stuff, you can go ahead and refer to my video on the spark plugs, and it'll show you how to do all of that. Pretty much for any engine work that you're doing, you're gonna have to take off that cowl. But right now we have to take off the charge pipe, and to take off the charge pipe, we're gonna have to remove this coupler right here, and then we have to take our screws off of the charge pipe. Now I have an aftermarket charge pipe, and I have different screws on here because I lost one of my screws, so we had to find some others. But take off these screws. There's gonna be 1, 2, and 1 at the bottom. We're gonna take off these sensors, or we're gonna disconnect them. And to do that, you just get them out and just kind of move them out of the way. And so let's go ahead and take off the charge pipe. All right, so the top of the charge pipe comes off. All right guys, so I was thinking of leaving the throttle body on the manifold, but I'm actually gonna take it off. And then just make sure that you take this connector off. It's just like the other connector. You have to pull this back first, and then you're gonna press in, and so it'll slide right out. The next thing I want to do is I'm gonna start clearing up some of these cables around here. So like these, I want to take this harness, this part out. This I'll probably unplug back here, the breather valve. I'm gonna go ahead and get in there, take it out, and you see there's just a lot of stuff that is gonna be just all over the place. I'm gonna go ahead and take this harness off as well. This is a coolant line that's gonna go into the manifold. All right guys, so for the most part, I've taken everything off that was supposed to be on the top. The breather comes off relatively easy. Everything else, you just move the cables up. What I would recommend is to go ahead and loosen this harness. And to do that, you need 2 small 8mm sockets to remove these little nuts. There's 2 of them, and that will pretty much loosen this a little bit more so you can pull the manifold out more freely. Another thing I would do is remove this coolant line. This is coolant for the manifold, and this one just simply pops out, and there's gonna be some coolant that leaks a little bit. That's absolutely fine. I'm gonna see if I can get this removed without actually having to disconnect the coolant lines at the bottom. Essentially, once everything is off of the manifold on the top, you can go ahead and start unscrewing the manifold. And to unscrew the manifold, you're gonna need to use a 10mm socket to break these loose, and then you can just take them out. All right guys, I want to show you the PI rail. This is Meth PI. This is the plate by BMS Performance, and it's powered by Cooling Mist, a company in the UK. So let's talk about a few things. We're going to talk about these little nozzles. These nozzles, obviously, they have a nozzle, they have a filter inside, and these little elbows actually have a check valve in them. So they are integrated. Instead of having to get a separate check valve, these are integrated within it. So then we put our line in here, and then of course this line would go to the distribution block. So the way to put these, I already put these on this plate just to save myself some time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put these on here. You want to make sure you get a good seal, and usually if you're dealing with pipes and stuff like that, you would put pipe thread on here. The only problem is that methanol will eat right through that, so you don't want to use that. So what we're actually going to use is this stuff called E6000, which is it's like a flexible sealant, and the methanol will not eat through it. Now obviously it's not going to be much of an issue, but we just want to prevent any issues with this methanol. So we're going to go ahead, we need to put a little drop on here and then start threading in, make sure it's tight. So I'm going to show you right now. And then you have this E6000. You're only going to literally put a little dab on there on the nozzle. It's kind of like putting Loctite on screw threads. And once you have that, you're going to grab your nozzle, and then we're just going to put it right in our plate. Now, as you can see, it's being threaded in. So this is what everything looks like. Now, if you want some extra added security, you can add some of that E6000 along the edges right here. Just make sure that the sealant or the little glue doesn't go into the actual nozzles, and you should be fine. But that's it for the plate. And then the next thing to do is to actually place this on the actual block, get the distribution block and place it where it needs to go, and actually just close it up, because I have everything else. We have everything else already in place on the car. All right guys, so we're gonna go in here. These are all 10 mils, and we're just gonna break them loose. Now once you break them loose, you can take your power tool and take them all out. The next thing we want to do is we want to take these support bolts off. There's one right here and one in the back. And to take those off, you're actually gonna need an E10, and we just pull those two out. All right guys, so after moving everything out of the way, I was able to pull the manifold back. Now this manifold is pretty massive, not gonna lie. So remove the manifold, and all you really have to do is remove those two coolant lines right there. These ones right here, they have these little clips that you can just pull. This line should come right out. I think I'm gonna show you, just to be thorough, how to take these off. So you get a pick tool, right, and you pull that off, and then the line should just pull right out. I can finagle with that in a little bit, but basically that's what you're gonna have to do. And then the same thing for this line. You pull those clips and then you pull the lines out. I do want to warn you, whenever those lines do come off, there's going to be a significant amount of coolant that's going to be draining. Make sure you have something at the bottom of the car picking up all that coolant. Now we have all the space that we need to work here. The meth plate's going to go right there. So what I want to do first is I'm going to go ahead and clean off all of this debris that may be on these runners, all this oil, all of it. I want to get it cleaned up the best I can, especially where the gaskets are going to sit. Just want to make sure all of that is clean. Pretty clean to me. There's a bit of coolant down there. That's fine. Not really worried about it. We have the fuel line, the meth fuel line coming in through here. All right, guys. So now that we have removed the intercooler slash intake manifold, we can place the plate in, and the plate fits in pretty much perfectly. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take, there are these bolts right here, and they have a size 5 Allen top. So we're just gonna put the bolts in and start tightening them. I would start with hand tighten all of them, and eventually we'll get to tighten them down. There's not really a spec for them, just, you know, hand tighten. All right guys, so here is the final product. This is essentially the way that I'm gonna leave it. So what I did is I got all the lines routed to distribution block right here, and you just put those lines in there and then tighten the nuts. And then there's another line right here that's gonna be leading to the charge pipe, and that way I can have some injection on the charge pipe as well for cooling. But this is pretty much it, and then we just put the manifold back on. I didn't film the process of me actually running the lines through there, or running the fuel line through, for that matter. So what I did is actually put some wire loom on these fuel lines, so it looks a little bit more hidden and inconspicuous, as well as put the solenoid in place, which is right here. The wire will run back into that thing over there full of wires. And then have another wire loom for the wires down here for the pressure monitor right here. And then the line will continue down here. It just looks like wires, honestly. And then the fuel line leads right here. Fuel will fill all of this up and spray the meth. So that's the way we're doing that. And of course the manifold goes on top and it hides all of that completely. The only thing that will be left exposed will be this one. And then we will put some wire loom on this as well and try to keep it a little bit inconspicuous, but it's going to be a little bit harder to hide. If anything, this will show that you are indeed spraying meth from the charge pipe, but it won't show the direct injection because it will be under the manifold. Now, if you wanted complete stealth, you don't have to have this, and you can just run it without, the charge pipe injection and just have direct injected meth. So now we're gonna put the manifold back on and start wrapping everything up. All right guys, so here is the final product. Well, sort of final product. We still have to put the throttle body and the charge pipe in. And so for those steps, obviously you just put everything back the way it was. But here is the plate. You can kind of see it through there. It's not too noticeable, but you can definitely tell that the manifold is raised a little bit. Now, I did want to note, everything else fits back exactly where it was. There's no extra pressure. I think the cables are loose enough where they have enough slack to adjust to the height. And I will say the plate is pretty thick. It's thicker than the PI plate by Evolution Speed and even Precision Raceworks, but this is a totally different application. Obviously, Mark Williams and Cobb Developments spent some time developing this and figuring out the best way to come up with a plate that would support meth. I'm gonna go ahead and close it up and I'm gonna show you the final product. All right guys, everything has been put back together. Well, except for the couplers on there. This is essentially what it would look like. Can't really tell there's meth there. I put wire loom all over these. Keep it a little bit more inconspicuous. Now this would definitely give it away, but it would only give it away for charge pipe injection, not for direct port. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I tried to show you as much as I could while I was recording. I didn't have any help for this video at all. I didn't have a cameraman. I didn't even have my camera stand to be there and angle it in such a way that I could show you some of this stuff better. But I did link below the manual for the Meth kit, and I'm also going to write down the bolt specs, so the specs to actually tighten the plate onto the head. I will give you the torque specs for that. And also I'm going to link the kit itself and everything that I used here to complete the kit. So I will also be linking the BMS stealth tank and any other information that you may need. Feel free to reach out to me or to reach out to Mark Williams in my DMs over Instagram. I realized that this is a really advanced installation. This is actually not for the average person. The average person can do it, but most of you will probably take it to a shop and have somebody install it for you. It is pretty involved. It does take a long time. So be prepared to spend about 2 to 3 days just installing this Meth kit. I know the video makes it look short, but it really isn't that short. There's a lot of things that need to be removed, a lot of things that need to be wired in, a lot of parts that need to be removed. You also have the whole coolant situation. Yeah, just make sure that you take the proper precautions when doing this work, and I think you should be fine. If you have any questions at all, feel free to refer to this video and to reach out to me or to Mark Williams or Comp Developments if you have any questions. Mark Williams has installed a few of these already, and he knows these kits like the back of his hand. I have only installed 2, but I know how to do this as I've installed other PI systems in other cars and platforms. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. Click like, subscribe, hit the bell, all the things, and I'll see you next time. Peace.